Awesome. Okay. Well, welcome everybody to the July Amesbury monthly poetry reading featuring Giaour and JD Debris. We are at the John Greenleaf Whittier Home and Museum in Amesbury, and I'm your host, Lisa Useni Phillips. I'm Amesbury's current Poet Laureate. This series and the Amesbury Poet Laureate program are sponsored by the Amesbury Cultural Council and the Whittier Home. So tonight's reading and Q&A session will be recorded, and it'll be followed by our open mic. If you'd like to read, and we hope you will, please sign up using, actually, just let me know. I do have a sheet, but it's not with me right now. And I'm not sure if we have a Zoom audience for this one, but if you're, oh really? Yeah. Oh great. Hi Zoom audience member. If you're on Zoom and you said yes or maybe when you registered, I have you on the list to read, and if you'd like to read and haven't set up, just drop a note in the chat. So tonight I'm very excited to introduce our two readers, Giaour and JD Debris. They're both authors of award-winning, mind-blowing debuts, and both, as you will hear, are musicians as well as poets. Giaour is the author of Hunting the Bugs, winner of Bateau Press's 2024 Boom Contest. When Jack isn't writing, he works as a data inputter for a steel company in Massachusetts, taking chaos and turning it into something efficient and meaningful. He originally came to poetry as a musician, not a writer, and his masterful emphasis on sound and rhythm is apparent within his works. Salem poet M.P. Carver praised Jack's debut thus: "Reading Hunting the Bugs, you recognize at once the poet's mastery of language along with emotions and narratives, so raw that they might have been plucked out of your own heart." JD Debris is the author of The Scorpions by Autumn House Press, came out in 2023. It was the winner of the Donald Justice Poetry Prize, and he was a Goldwater Fellow at New York University where he earned his MFA. His work has received further awards from Disquiet, Mass Poetry, Narrative, and Plowshares. He is a visiting lecturer at Endicott College and Salem State University here in Massachusetts. January Gill O'Neill, who read here last month, praised The Scorpions writing, "Like a soulful corrido," I probably did not pronounce that correctly, JD skillfully gives voice to a fractured past. Every turn of the page is a streetwise sonic sojourn, a barefoot samba, a bob and weave, a rhythm of return. Please help me welcome JD and Jack.
All right, thanks for that, Lisa.
Oh.
Anything else before we get started?
No.
Season. The flowering season, early spring. Yeah, yeah. Early spring. Yeah, yeah. Early spring. Yeah, yeah. long exhale at the end of a hyperventilating season. All winter, nothing touched my neck except the clenched, manic teeth of the electric razor the beach wind sawed. Marvin Hagler, my home state's fiercest fighter, a man so mean they say hair feared his sweat-gleamed skull, is gone. Ooh, rest in power, Marvin Hagler, rest in peace, yeah, yeah. I tell you, I've mimicked his ritual. Mornings, breathless, sprinting the hill. In a sea and a continent apart, your curls have been on my mind. A Parisita, by the logic and legends of that bald, fallen boxer, your curls mean mercy. Are wild and fertile as these blossoms blindsiding New England spring. Vines around a cello's neck, its body split, a beehive inside. I dreamt we kissed so slow, it was like breathing for the first time. Parisita, ooh, Parisita. So I kind of do a hybrid thing. Obviously, when I perform, I like to mix in a little music with the poetry, kind of bring it back to the roots, whether that's lyric poetry or the griot tradition. Poetry comes out of the song, and I like to bring it back to that. But, you know, if I should stop singing, just give me the thumbs down. I'm very, very amenable to change on the fly. I'm gonna try something. This is a friend who I need to call. It's a poem for him. It's called On the Beach at Night with Pete. And when I was writing this book, I wasn't really writing with music in mind so much as I had like melodies of songs I'd heard in various places just kind of threading through the poem. So when I took these to the stage, after the book came out, it was fun to bring in some of the music that's referenced in the poem. So if there's any reggae fans in the house, you might recognize a little flip of a little something. No copyright infringement that I'm about to do. So. Row, fishermen, row, keep on rowing your boat, and brother man, your row, fishermen, row, to a little old seaport town. Yeah. A curled ribbon of carcinogens trails your finger as we listen to a sermon from your phone. Feet on the picnic bench like we're still delinquents. You're hunting dogs at ease. The beach is closed. Your smoke swirls like a haunted chapel's incense. And when the preacher pleads toward the stratosphere, you punctuate the air with your American spirit, like you hold the world's lightest hammer.
yeah, in writing this book, well, in writing this book, the seed of it happened, I don't know, just realizing that a lot of people that I know have been deployed, like have been to war. I have a cousin in Yemen right now. I have coworkers who have been in Iraq and Afghanistan and Syria. I have friends. I have hooked up with people. Like I realized how many people have had this experience. And so not every experience is as intense as what appears in the book, but a lot of them are. And so, yes, this is a thing that we talk about, but I think what I was working through when I really started writing this poem is just how prevalent it is, right? It's not something that happens on Netflix. It's not something that happens in a movie. It's not this great drama. Like, this is the actual experience of actual people that we interact with all the time. So just keeping that in mind when we advocate for deploying people, and maybe remembering that the people we're deploying are people that hopefully will survive, but even if they do, they're going to come back here with this experience, or they're going to go back home, right? And so the character that I just read from was Russian, but I have an American character who's also in Afghanistan. And I have a local character who's also in Afghanistan, so I'm going to read from his piece. His name is Ali. He's in Afghanistan. The year is 2023. I do have some Arabic in this poem that I am like 99% sure is right, but I'm not going to butcher it for you and speak it out loud. But just when you see Arabic in the book, it's written correctly. I'm like pretty sure. I'm trying. Slowly making my way through Duolingo. Okay, Ali is in Afghanistan, 2023. Aksat Books is still open, but things have been a little different lately. 2 of our managers have been sent home to their husbands and 1 to her father. There is no longer a travel section and an anxious hole where drama and theater used to be. But my sections are essays and poetry, and for now, most of the books in my care are safe. I mostly stock analyses of scripture and leather-bound copies of the classics. Once the shelves were stuffed with foreign names, Samuel Beckett, William Carlos Williams, Khalil Gibran, to place in the hands of the American soldiers. Have you read Omar Khayyam? I smile now and place the book in the hands of the Taliban and hope these divine prodigies can still heed the poet's call. This prayer is a simple relation, a given song to a given other, a simple hope that the fall of manna might move flowers to a change, the age-old picking and possessing of a fired horizon, the age-old belief in the cleansing fire of the word. Samira is the only woman still on staff because her husband gave her special permission to remain, on the condition that she be moved from the book floor to the cafe, a more appropriate place for a woman her age. She is full of memories from when the poetry section was filled with translation, Russian language copies of Hafiz, Abu Nuwas, Rubaiyat. Be careful, is all she says to me, but what she means is, I know about you. What she means is, I've seen how the world can be cruel to men like you, and all I can do for now is smile and say, don't worry, I will be. So I might return to that poem, but for now we're going to move on into the book. We're just going to move right along. So this poem is called The Declaration of Principles, which is like really ostentatious, but I'm glad that it made it into the book. But I was reading a lot of like really Central and Northern South American poetry, like El Salvadorian and Colombian, and specifically like poetry of the socialist movements that happened there in the 60s and 70s. And regardless of how you feel about the politics, what I loved about that poetry was how passionate it was, but in particular, they had such a vision for how things could be, and they were filled with so much like fire in terms of whether or not that actually happened or not. They knew how it could be, and that poetry was just, I don't know, it almost didn't read like political poetry to me. It felt like elegies, right? Like they were almost mourning this future that they knew wasn't going to happen. Like no matter who won or how it worked out, they knew it wasn't going to work out the way that they wanted it to, but they were going to fight for it anyway. And I was just like so inspired by that. So this poem like came out of that, and so I like kind of took that title. I was in that space. But so anyway, here we go. Once I murmured monstrous things into a summer night's moon-touched air, me of the awakening despair, weaving little droplets of rain through my pubic hair. Once I was beautiful. What a guilty verdict. A heart in the dark beats faster. A heart in heat doesn't need to beat, or even to walk, or even to speak. Once he poked a hole through the eye of darkness with the sharpened tip of a pencil, and the darkness blinded him back. Blindness is sweeter than expected, but cold. Sweet and cold as a flower blooming the bloody red of continued moons. He's afraid of dissolving, he's probably right to be. The body is the only masterpiece, the unacceptable cells firmly burned, reduced and seen through the dark eye of the microscope to be continuously rebuilt from the ashes. In the morning, everything sings. It's this that spoils the waking. The father was always trying to cool down, and the child was always internally picking. As a child, I tried to dictate myself into blackout or evidence myself into sense, more pressures than memory can bear. All we are made of in the end are burnable things, things like prodigious possibility and plastic film. I once bought a cassette just to watch the two whirring eyes spin and spin. The light in the winter was different, and now he wears the sunglasses to hold his whirring eyes in place, while he tells me that the snake and its egg both represent zero. He tells me after that he would go with me anywhere out of the world, and behind some heavy breathing there's truth and even time in what he's saying. Time to rest after the execution is over, to hang with forked tongues from the eaves. In the end, I never really tried at anything. My blood audio, a guilty vocabulary of escaped breath. The father was there for the child's first confused development, the rolling of the blue dice. Now we just play with our bodies. Now I just drink and tell him that the brain and the fist both represent zero. But this thought too is not mine. I'm late to our third date, and that's the last time we fuck. From this side of the dark river, it's obvious there's nothing original about us. Once I was innocent, but after each bruised joy, after each midnight to dawning wheel, that too becomes a guilty verdict. Once I had kindling in my chest and wove little sparks of fire through my pubic hair. Here's to the smell of my father's cigars, the child and the rolled tobacco, two different kinds of faggot. I drink all the time, and I wonder, did I inherit this addiction, or was it lit by the fires ever burning on the banks of the dark river? Once I smiled, leaning large, an achievement in guilt and summer rain. So I probably should have asked beforehand if it's okay for me to say bad words, but yeah. we're already there. So this one is called Coming Down Boylston Street, and this was written for Boston Pride in 2023. Tonight, forget how time rebuilds experience. Tonight, just decompose and let the blackout envelop you. No matter the transmission from mind to telephone screen, the signal's always shit. The boy on Netflix clutches the man with the X-ray eyes. Once I fell in love with a cop, and he loved me back. The snake chokes on the mouse. Most hunts are unsuccessful, and what I mean by that is life in the underworld is not what you think it is. It's the sun that gives the shadows their shapes, and what I mean by that is his love for me did not stop my cop from being a fascist. So tonight, turn off the lights. Tonight, trade underwater for an autumn forest. Just stand there and stare into the canopy. Listen from the bottoms of your feet to the sighing of the leaves that once would sway overhead for miles and miles in every direction. Your eyes may water, but never again let them run. The time to cry has passed. Thank you. You guys are great. All right. How am I doing for time? All right. I'm gonna read 2 more poems from this book. And then, actually, I'm gonna read 1 more poem from this book and I might come back to it. So this one is called Why I Can't Get Out of Bed. I went to the sea with the intention of drowning, climb steeper and fall further. Everything looks pathetic around me, open and sadly filthy, like a ribbon in the dirt. So long, that's how long I looked at the sea. But once the drowning became something possible, I got lost. If there's something to love, should I still? Can I love? I mean the real thing, open and filthy. There are sacrifices in the ancient places. Pillars can cut you up like silk. I want you now, but I didn't before. Know how I found the sea? I followed the moon, heading east, the traditional performance of loneliness and starvation. Hunger is not a sacrifice, and I am following the moon, and I am stupid for pretending that I toe the line, distorted as the ocean's clouds of scum and sand. So Pride Month was last month, but I happen to be gay all year round, so we're gonna... I shouldn't even rag on Pride Month. I love it, and it is an important commemoration of history if you celebrate it in a certain way. But, so, this poem is called Hotel. This was published in 14 Hills. Woo! But this is San Francisco State University's literary magazine, and it is incredible. Like, I love them to death. Every issue I've read of them has been great, so I was so happy when they decided to publish me. But, so this poem's called Hotel. It has an epigraph from the Boston Globe. This is dated February 23rd, 1973, and this does have a bad word in it, but you can't get mad at me because it's the Boston Globe. So, quote, "It is almost 3 a.m., and the gay bars have closed, and the fags and hookers and pimps and pushers roam the streets." So we're in 1973 in Boston. I've been shaking, knee-deep in the snow, trying to light a cigarette on the corner of Piedmont and Broadway, while a vague tension hums behind the aisles of snow and stern brick. This neighborhood is the kind you would call colorful. See the pink triangle in the second-story window, the blue cop car parked in front of Jake's, the green neon flicker in the sidewalk gutter, and everywhere red, the pulse and the light of the district. You're beautiful, baby. Let's get out of here. Do you want to dance? The ineffable sentences skitter and stumble over the ice. Someone mentioned an ocean yesterday, and a strange opacity descended over the conversation. What can I say? I've been on edge lately. I've been tired lately of being a man twice hidden. Tired of holding myself straight in the sunshine hours. Whenever I find myself, I need to be transported again. The cops raided the Moonflower again. But don't worry, I know a place that's friendly. I know a place that's safe for now. You can't afford a room, but you can split one with me. And after we're done, you can read while I smoke and pretend that the slurred voices of the early morning drunks are really the voices of birds, singing to the sun as it rises over the combat zone. So I think we all know that the combat zone was a real place, but I have read that for some folks, and they think that that's like my poetic language, right? I'm being metaphorical. I'm like, no, that's really what it was called. So while we're on this theme of queer history, this poem was recently published by Albatross, which is also a local press. And the name of this poem is Traveling to the Past to Reclaim History. The Audience Almost Misses Trans Man. I'm gonna flip that so I can actually read my writing. He could have been any man as he got off the train and headed toward the waterfront with little spots of dandruff clinging to his jacket and a slight hunch in his narrow shoulders. But he is not any man, even though he could be. Ladies and gentlemen, let me draw your attention to his perfect invisibility. Let us examine his disappointing normalcy. He looks well-bred and clean-cut. He is the perfect image of the 20s businessman, the 30s salesman, the 40s journalist, just a shy guy who keeps to himself, but not enough to seem like someone with a secret. Just your average white-collar man holding his hat and leaning slightly against the railing of the pier. A self-made, all-American man enjoying an evening smoke after a day at the office. His dark hair ruffled by the sea breeze that sends the flame of the match to quivering against his slender fingers. He's easy to miss, folks, so look closely as trans man closes his eyes and takes the first after-work inhale in hard-earned anonymity. It is my privilege right now to be able to dress like this in public and not only be respected, but to be respected as a man, right? To be respected as myself and to be read as who I am. We'll see if that continues to be the case. But I think a lot of us feel that trans and queer identities are a contemporary phenomenon because many people only see trans people in a contemporary context. But there are many historical examples of trans people, and I think a lot of trans history has been erased, but a lot of it's been erased by trans people, right, who wanted to be seen as their gender, and didn't feel safe to broadcast, I guess, that they were trans, right, that didn't have the community that I have today. And if you doubt my words, I will leave you with one historical example, Dr. Alan Hart, who, among other things, is the doctor that discovered that tuberculosis scars show up on an x-ray. So, not a small medical discovery, but he called himself a transgender man, and was the first man, to my knowledge, was the first transgender man to undergo HRT, which is hormone replacement therapy. He got his first testosterone shot in like 1925. So, and that's the same testosterone that I go to CVS to get today, right? So this is not new medication. These are not new procedures. These are things that have been with us for a while. And if you're like, I never heard of Dr. Alan Hart, maybe there's a reason that we don't remember him the same way that we remember like Marie Curie, right? Even though his discovery was just as important. So blah, 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 no more soapboxing. I'm gonna end, I'm gonna end with the last poem in the book, which is called Graveside. Only on autumn evenings can we find this blessed stroking light. Leaves behind an arm, silence into which you bleed your fumes. I am a small Christ in the pocket of your skinny jeans. Gentle black silk caught in your flux, with a thirst for strange iron in the senses. Maddened by motion, I am paralyzed, like Christ in the headlights, like Dracula after a bar fight, like pest control, tripping down yet another flight of basement steps, poison cocked, hunting the bugs in the walls. That's all. Thank you so much.
Next up, we have some time for question and answers, Q&A. And if you're on Zoom and you have some questions, please drop them in the chat. But actually, I have a few questions.
So we go up.
Yeah, actually,
We can just. I'll get to stand.
okay. Yeah, and we also have another mic.
Yeah, we do have another mic.
I
You want to put it on the podium?
Yeah. Sorry, we haven't done this before. We had a mic, but I think this one is for. Okay. Can you hear us now? Just want to make sure.
I definitely heard it.
We could also like
We have two.
split the difference if you want to just.
Yeah, we can both stand on
Yeah.
either side
Okay.
of that mic if that.
Okay.
Just kind
We
of
can-
the.
Yeah, and we can repeat the questions as people ask them, so the questions are heard too.
Okay.
So I'll start the Q&A. Actually have a couple, but so you two are friends, and I was curious about how you guys met, you know, and how your friendship developed.
Yeah, I think I think that was, if I'm not mistaken, this one Jack got back from his MFA at Chapman, correct?
Oh, okay.
So my earliest memory of you is at Walnut Street. So I'm pretty sure that's where we met, unless you can think of a place that we were outside. But so this would have been, yeah, like 2015. No, later than that, 2017. Because yes, I had just gotten back from my MFA at Chapman University, which is in Southern California. And so I was going to, every Wednesday night, there is a great open mic at Walnut Street Cafe in Lynn that I still go to, but I was going there, I had started to go there regularly at this time, and you were there. There was a whole group of people from Salem State that were there. I think that's really where it started, and then we just started hanging out outside of that space. We started going to other literary spaces. I think we're really fortunate in the North Shore that we have a lot of literary spaces to go to, so
That's true.
that's it.
Yeah, and then I left for my MFA shortly after we met, and then when I came back, we were hanging out again. And
Yeah.
weirdly, we were both in Lisbon about a year ago now, last summer at the same time.
Yes.
Somehow we didn't even plan it.
Friend that I met,
Yeah, so it was weird. It was really weird, very surreal.
Meant to be. So where is Walnut Street? Is that,
It's in Lynn.
oh, it's in Lynn,
Lynn,
okay.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
It's also the market basket, not market basket, marketplace. And you just go down, you know, like the marketplace mall.
Oh, yeah.
And you just
Got
go
it.
down like a little bit and, you know, it's on that same Walnut Street, then it goes right into
Cool.
Glen, so both directions.
I'll have to stop by sometime.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'll put some more information about that on my website. So I've started asking our readers, our poets who come about literary citizenship. And I wanted to ask both of you, you know, how would you each define it, and what does it mean to you and your work and your life as a poet, I guess? This is a quiz.
I've been involved with teaching in Grub Street's Young Adult Writing Program,
Nice.
and at a program called Elevated Thought out of Lawrence, Mass. So anytime, you know, you can connect with the youths, I think that's the way to do it. I did the teaching artist thing. This is not like a list of my altruism, but I'm just giving like examples of when things come up, and if you can pass on any wisdom you have to the youths, you know, I'm sure there's like teachers, any teachers in the room, yeah, like of a sort. Yeah. So it was like taught somebody something before. Yeah, I think that's when we say citizenship. I think it's
Yeah.
that each one teach one, right?
Mhm.
So
Nice.
Yeah, I guess to be in agreement with that, when people say literary citizenship, I think the first thing that comes to my mind is community. And so I think sometimes we expect things like activism from that, and that's totally great and fine. But I think citizenship can also be things like attending local readings, like sharing your friend's reading on Instagram, like saying to someone that, I don't know, saying to that kid that wandered into the open mic, like, wow, your poem was awesome, right? Like, that can also be citizenship too, right? Saying, hey, to someone, hey, you belong in this space. It's okay for you to be here. It's okay for you to keep doing this. And it's okay for, this can be more than just you in your head, right? Like, this can be a lifestyle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Good. So, both of your debuts incorporate languages other than English. And Jack, like you had mentioned the Arabic and the Russian, and JD, I saw Spanish and Portuguese and heard that in your work. Can you each talk a little bit about your relationship with those languages and how they're part of your poetry?
All right, I'll answer first. Yeah, so I really love language, but that is really how I came to poetry, right? I really love the English language and I love the sounds of language. But so that love of language also branches out into like a very casual learning of languages. I have like 6 classes open on Duolingo, and but I just get interested in something and I start learning about it and I dive into it and I want to know the grammar, and then I let it go and I move on. Like it's not really like a serious thing that I do, but it is serious in the sense that I enjoy it. But so when I started writing this book, I was learning Russian on Duolingo, but Russian is a language and a culture that I've been interested in a long time. And my graduate thesis, or my graduate research specialty, was in early Soviet and Russian avant-garde lit. And I wanted to go to Russia after grad school, and that kind of fell through. But so Russian is definitely a language that I've been interested in. And so a lot of the Russian came into this book because it was on the brain anyway. I was learning the language, and then I was researching this history, and I kept seeing the US and Russia in the same places. But a lot of those places are Arabic-speaking places. And so this book actually inspired me to start learning Arabic on Duolingo, and I'm slowly learning Arabic. The grammar is really intense. But I'm glad that I'm learning it. It's a beautiful language and it looks really beautiful on the page. So like an evil part of me was like, oh my God, I have to put some Arabic in this book. Yes, because it takes place in a lot of Middle Eastern nations, but also because it's just a gorgeous looking script.
Yeah, in my case, I'm just pulling from the language that's around us, and like areas that I've lived, that I've grown up in, being bilingual or whatever, or a little bit trilingual is not all that uncommon. Yeah. And I try not to, I don't know, I feel like it can, I want to be careful to like use a language accurately, I guess, rather than just for ornamentation. You know what I mean? Like, there's kind of like the Chamber of Commerce. You know that ad for Visit Puerto Rico? It's like, in Puerto Rico, we call ourselves Boricua, and we are full of passion. And I'm like, I don't want to do that shit, because it's like, it feels like you're kind of using the language as like ornamentation, right? Yeah. Whereas you can only say in a certain language, right? Or in a certain dialect even, like that you can only say, like, can you say, what, do you live in a barn in any other dialect than like Boston? You know what I'm saying? Like, or in like, in Dominican Republic, they say DK, like if they DK, like, but it doesn't quite mean as if. It's like there's a different tone to it. Yeah. So I just try to use phrases that mean something as specifically as possible, right? Rather than to be like, we say passion to me, passion. Like, if I start doing that shit, just take me out back and yell at me, because I'm done. So.
Thank you. Anyone else in our audience here? And then I'll check the chat for any questions that we might have on Zoom.
I have a question.
Sure.
For JD.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Where did you grow up?
So I grew up on the North Shore. So born in Salem, grew up mostly in Beverly. Made my home in East Boston, and then had to get out and made my home in Jersey City, and now I'm back again. So, So just, you know.
One other thing, how long have you been playing the guitar?
The question was,
I
how
don't-
long have you been?
How long have I been
guitar?
playing the guitar? Probably for, I don't know, a long time. Long time, yeah.
Thank you.
I don't know. I'm right, I don't count.
Let me just check.
Actually, I have a question. Follow up
Oh,
to
sure,
that.
no, go ahead.
Does your guitar have a name?
No, let's take a vote right now. Show of hands. Who wants to name it Alexander Pushkin?
Hercules.
Yeah, that's cool. Boom, done.
Don't do it, don't copy B.B. King.
So can I have another hand for, I'm so happy that you guys were able to come and read. This is fantastic. And we give, in addition to the honorarium, we give each of our readers a
Oh,
John Greenleaf Whittier home
Great.
mug. When Lloyd Schwartz got his, when Lainey was, when Ellie was poet laureate, he was just so excited. So it's part of the tradition. Yeah.
Can we read the quote on the
Sure.
mug?
Yeah.
This is-
Sure.
quote. Maybe this can be, we'll give Whittier the final word here. Sit with me by the homestead hearth and stretch the hands of memory forth to warm them at the wood fire's blaze.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, and now we will have our open mic. If you are here and you want to read, let me know. Okay, we have 2, 3, 4, 5. Whoa. Yay.